in my opinion, if you are selling raw cards, you should have a front and back on it anyways.
I don't think a seller should do anything except for sell at the price they care to do. I don't think a seller, unless they're bait and switching.
I'm not a buyer for a card that I can't see the back ever, though.
Right, and I believe that people who are buyers for cards that aren't seeing the back are people who are more gamblers and are thinking they're going to get it for a better price because there's not a back shot. So they think that they'll be able to get it a little less than someone who did list it with a back photo. And so maybe they're thinking it's worth the gamble. So I think
if you're doing that as the seller, you should expect to get returns.
And I have one. So if you list a card, a PSA 9, right? Or okay, let's go a little spicier. If you list a CGC 8.5 that has a dent, you see a front and a back picture of it. Are you circling, or are you in the heading or the description? Maybe not the heading, not in all caps in the heading, but maybe the description. You put a little thing. Do you say exclamation? This card is damaged. No. Or do you just leave it to the customer and you just kind of put a clear heading and you give it a front and back picture and you just say, it's CGC, they graded it. And so since a grader graded it, is it therefore it's not your responsibility? But then when it's not graded, it's your responsibility. So that's why I say I don't think a seller has a responsibility to do any one thing or the other as long as they're sending the card that's advertised. It's not a bait and switch.
When I send when I send the card to grading, I'm paying for their opinion on that card. So I'm going to sell the opinion that I paid for on that card. I'm not going to pay for somebody else's opinion and then sell my opinion.
So you won't circle it then, and you won't put it in the head. It's just going to say CGC 8.5, whatever it is, and then it's like, hey, CGC graded, it's cool. I'm not saying that's a right or wrong thing.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but there's a reason why PSA still has their money back, or not money back guarantee, but if the card was misgraded, the argument would be with PSA, not with me.
So what if PSA doesn't uphold? I see Rattle in the chat here. He's actually gone through about
they don't uphold. I mean, there's a lot of
So then it is kind of, it's not on PSA then who's they keep on passing the buck around. It's just on the buyer.
This is the thing. When you're, again, just because I think that card was misgraded, when it goes to PSA and they regrade that card, you're using their judgment. Any PSA card that is currently in a slab, anyone that exists, you are buying that card based off of somebody's opinion. Never a single time a PSA card that is graded are you buying that card that is graded by PSA because of the seller's opinion. That's just not how buying cards work.
But the seller is choosing to sell a card, or whether or not they grade the card.
So now you're just
so is it dishonest for someone to reslab?
The seller is a better grader than somebody who was paid. Again,
what if the seller has the same card they've cracked out 5 times and they know that it was a set, i.e. Illustrator Pikachu, and it gets upgraded? Is it dishonest? Is it dishonest to then grade it because the same person did it, or then they have to sell it to someone else, and then it shades that I don't understand where the line is drawn, because I feel like it's sort of subjective. It feels like, because what grading company? So CGC doesn't have a guarantee, do they? So if you send it to them and it's worth,
I don't know, but I would say no, because CGC is a bad company.
So only PSA and only companies with guarantees are okay to sell cards that are damaged, because then they're upheld by them, whereas the other companies, they're bad companies. I don't know. I'm trying to find the logic there. That's all.
No, I mean, the problem is you're talking about paying for somebody's. It's the same way when you buy a house, right?
It's almost like grading's a farce. Wow.
Here, I'll give you an example. You buy a house. The bank's gonna make somebody come in and appraise your house in order to give you that mortgage, right? Maybe you want that house and you think that house is worth $400,000, but your appraiser's only going to appraise that house at $350,000. Good luck telling the bank that your opinion is more valuable than the person they paid. The bank's going to tell you to go kick rocks. They're going to say your house is worth $350,000 because the person I paid to Appraise Your House said that's what it's worth. It's the same way it's grading a card. The person I paid to grade your card said your card's an 8. I don't care that you think that that card is a 7 because I paid for their opinion to appraise that card. Or maybe not appraise, but to assign a grade to it. Like, and if
It
that
doesn't guarantee a cost with the grade, though. The grade doesn't guarantee any sort of like value per se. It
Sure
just
it
guarantees an
the
opinion.
grade guarantees a value because PSA has prices associated to their cards and their grades.
I've heard Dan
Otherwise,
say
upcharges wouldn't be a thing.
So there is no market value. There's no such thing as market value. There is the last sold. There are data points. There's the last sold, and
PSA
there's
will upcharge you if your card is worth enough money. It doesn't matter if that Illustrator
that's a whole nother
Pikachu is
thing,
an 8
though.
or if that Illustrator Pikachu is a 10. There is dollar amounts assigned to certain grades based off of fair market value.
Some people get upgraded, it's upcharged, some don't, and so PSA upcharging for some cards and some that they don't is like very subjective, and that's a whole nother issue.
We don't know if that. So I don't work at PSA. I can't tell you if that is a subjective thing or if that is just an accounting issue that PSA has, where some cards are slipping through the cracks and some are not. I couldn't tell you why some get upcharged and some don't, and especially you'll see some submissions with like the same card on it and one of that card gets upcharged and one of them doesn't. Same card, same grade. I want to say that is an internal issue at PSA, but I'm not qualified to like talk which one that could be.
I think PSA, when Nat took over, he realized that whole time they weren't doing upcharges properly for the bulk, and it was all this money they're leaving on the table, and then they saw the hobby explode. He's like, look, we can't very well make a lot more money, and we're shut down right now. He's like, we can't very well take more submissions. How can we make more money as things are coming back so that we can actually do something that's only a little bit scummy? It's just like, it's in the contract. You should have expected upcharges, but it just never happened before. And then they suddenly started doing it because, okay, new management, you got to find some money on the table. I get that. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I get why they did it. But look, you all know, I'm always on some shit. I'm on my old bullshit here tonight. I like to have fun and talk. I'm very candid, right? I hope I didn't offend anyone, but you all know how I feel about grading. And I'm just, PK and I see differently about grading here. And I think it's fun to have this conversation because lately I've been feeling so much more. It's just so much more apparent how much of a scam grading seems like to me and how they're just like leeching money away from the hobby. And I know you can say that about pack breakers like myself. You can say that about auction houses, like, even eBay, who provides, I think, a pretty good service to sell items. They still take a ton of money from every sale. And for what, and so like you could say that too, but I think it's a good conversation to have, especially as people are sending out like hundreds of cards guaranteeing PSA to have 6+ months of labor that they can just do whatever they want with at this higher price to just put into plastic. I think it's a good conversation to have for sure.
Yeah, it's the thing. It's as long as in order for anybody to sell a product or sell a service, and that's kind of what PSA does. They sell two things. They sell a service, which is grade your card, and they sell a product, which is that slab, I guess, technically, right? Like, that's what you're paying for. Paying for whatever people want to say. What it comes down to is you're paying for somebody's opinion. They are a service provider. There's a lot of service providers that exist in the world, provide all different types of services, and there will be customers so that service provider will last as long as there is customers. And trust me, there's a lot of things in this market and a lot of things in this hobby I do not agree with, but sometimes there's just things that are around to stay, that's one of them.